Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for your company on this Sunday afternoon. Really appreciate it. Now, Cockney actor Danny Dyer, yes, of EastEnders fame, who has both royalty and political figures in his family tree, says that the elitist critics wouldn't ridicule his accent if he were a black actor, say from Jamaica, for example. The former EastEnders star shares that one particularly scornful review of his work was even written mockingly in a Cockney accent. I've got no idea how you do that, but I'd be interested to read it. Joining me now is Conservative councillor for Chiswick Gunnersbury, Ron Mashisho. I hope I pronounced that right. Ron, thank you very much for joining me. Accents, right, OK. Now, I'm from the same part of London as Danny Dyer, so I figure I can talk a bit rubbish as well, like Danny Dyer does. But does it give people the opportunity to sneer at me?
Well, firstly, I think Danny Dyer is a national treasure, and he's an actor. And, you know, when you're an actor, there will be some people who try to imitate your accent. Some may even try to mock your accent. And I know friends of mine who, when I speak to them, they sound exactly like Danny Dyer. So I don't think it's a term of ridicule. I think it's a term of endearment for Danny Dyer. He's a national treasure, and we should be celebrating him.
But, I mean, he does have a point, doesn't he? If he had a heavy, say, Jamaican accent, it wouldn't be OK for anyone to ridicule him. And, you know, an entire theatre review written up in a gall-blimey Cockney accent, if Danny Dyer can even act a bit, they wouldn't write like that if it was a Jamaican accent, would it? It is something about that East End Cockney accent, or the Essex accent, if you want to broaden it out, that lets people just take the mickey out of it.
No, I don't think so, actually. You know, we have a number of national treasures in this country whom accents have been taken the mickey out of for a number of years. One is a shining example that we saw a few weeks ago in Chris Eubank Sr., somebody who, when I first started watching sports and entertainment on TV, I kept hearing all sorts of people taking the mickey out of his accent. He's Jamaican, and he hasn't complained about that a single jot. So I think Danny Dyer should accept that he is a national treasure, that he is going to get criticism. He is an actor. I mean, he can change his accent if he wants. He's an actor after all. We just saw in his new show where he is not sounding the same as he normally does. So, no, I don't think it's a ridicule at all. I think if somebody is imitating an accent such as that, it is a term of endearment, and I think he should accept that.
Danny Dyer should just shut up and accept it. You talk very, very lovely, by the way. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining me, Ron.
I blame my excellent foster parents, Don and Celine Hassel, who raised me to at least get my words to be pronounced and words to relax my accent so people can understand me. Now, I speak slightly differently when I speak to some of my friends, as in I relax a few words and a few syllables. But when I'm talking as a teacher or as a counsellor, I make sure that all my words are pronounced properly so that I'm fully understood. But as an actor, like Danny Dyer, he can do all of that. He has the skills in spades. He should be celebrated, and he should accept who he is and carry on.
Brilliant. So, Danny, shut it, mate. OK, thank you very much, Ron. Lovely to talk to you. I do talk lovely. That was Conservative councillor for Chiswick Gunnersbury, Ron Mashisho. He did speak terribly nice, Charlie. When do you speak terribly nicely as well?
Well, I think Ron was on something at the end there, because I think, look, when you're doing a programme like this, when you're on television, when you're speaking, you do, I think, enunciate a bit more. I think, you know, you speak clearly, or some, but you know, depending on your. But I think even if you've got a regional accent, the region accent, I think, comes out even more, depending on the role that you're playing or how you're sort of trying to present yourself. And so, and, you know, a little bit of actor training in my youth, I think, was not too dissimilar to Ron, I'm afraid to say, But the one thing about Danny Dyer, which I think I'm going to be slightly critical of, is that brilliant actor, notwithstanding any of that, but I think there's a difference between when you're acting and then when you play into a stereotype. And I think what Danny Dyer has done just on a couple of occasions, which might invite the criticism and invite the sort of, you know, the cheap sneering, is when you're maybe at an awards ceremony and then, you know, you might use a very disparaging word against, for example, David Cameron, which I think he did in the day, just as he's done quite recently against Keir Starmer. It's quite cheap to try and play a stereotype of someone that might be from the East End traditionally as you would want to see them, just as I think it's quite cheap if you're trying to play quite a camp, flamboyant sort of, someone that would be traditionally gay, when you're not, you can act a gay character without having to do that. You can be a brilliant actor in EastEnders from the East End without having to play up to the stereotype to get views, to get and I think that's what the critics will aim at him.
I've got to shut you up as posh as you are. I was running out of time, Barry. Just very quickly, your accent has smoothed all over the place, really. I mean, originally Scotland, but a bit of
America, a bit of Cambridgeshire. Look,
but do you think Danny's right?
I think context is everything. And let's imagine, I've not read this review that was done in a Cockney accent, but I imagine that if it had been a glowing review in a Cockney accent about how wonderful an actor Danny Dyer was, he might not have taken exception to it in the same way. But my wife is constantly picking me up because I tend to, my ear picks up accents quite quickly. And what I then do, totally subconsciously, is I sometimes take on a bit of the accent of the person I'm speaking with. And it's subconscious, it's wanting to blend in, it's wanting to be accepted in that environment, but it's not conscious Mickey taking. And I used to absolutely refuse to believe that I did it until I was coming down on a bus from Scotland with my wife. We'd come on, we were then getting the other coach taking us up to Cambridge. This is years ago. And I'd been speaking like this all the time. I was up there with my relatives and stuff like this. And then I got onto this coach and the driver said, "Right, mate, where are you going?" And I said, yeah, we want to get up the And she said, "There, you've just done it." And she was right, and I had to own up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't conscious.
No, absolutely. Well, are you in sympathy with what Danny Dyer's had to say? Let me know, gbnews.com/your say. Now, let's change the pace, because if you are escaping for some holiday sun, you'll want to know what the weather's going to be like for you. So here's a forecast for those top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling